Welcome to the show. Lots to do over the next 60 minutes. We got a busy one today. Kurt Helin of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com is in his usual Wednesday slot. Dianna Russini drops by in 10 minutes to talk about all things NFL as the trade deadline approaches and a whole bunch more. But we start things out in Major League Baseball, and Sam Yarnell is here. There will be a Game 6, Sam Yarnell. No sweep, no ending in 5. We're going 6. I'm going to start doing the count. As the Toronto Blue Jays just continue to show their resiliency. And look, it was obvious that what took place in Game 3, it was more of an impact on the Dodgers because you had Ohtani, who was on base 9 times in Game 3. And you got Dave Roberts making a decision to put him out there for the 7th inning. And I even wrote on social media, go on my X account, you see it on the screen. After the 6th inning ended, I said, if you're Roberts, do you put him out there for the 7th? And I think he had a pretty good 6th inning, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember. He might have struck out the side. I don't remember. But he got through the 6th inning, and he's around 90 pitches at that point. Roberts puts him out there for the 7th, and we see what happens. He gets into trouble. The bullpen comes in, coughs it up, and at the end of the day, it adds up to a 6-2 Blue Jays win. Game 5 on Wednesday night. Savage versus Snell. And we got a series, Sam Yarnell, that's for sure.
I mean, the Toronto Blue Jays just continue with every win to shock the world. I mean, they've now doubled the amount of losses that the Dodgers had suffered in the 3 previous series combined. But, and obviously you see what the numbers still are on this series, and I don't think anyone really thinks that the Blue Jays are going to win this now best of 3.
Why?
But it's great that they made it to this point. But my takeaway in all of this, and my takeaway from every single one of these games, and especially that the Blue Jays have won 2 of them, is that this is so good for baseball. This is so healthy for baseball as a sport. It is. I saw an argument today, and I actually don't even think it's an argument that's that far off center. The United States may not be a top 4 nation for whom this World Series is the most important to. This World Series is absolutely growing the sport, Jason. And I am just so heartwarmed to see so many people talking about baseball. And in the age and day where you see sports and sports leagues fading away into controversy, it's Major League Baseball, America's pastime, that's becoming the world's pastime and remaining the stalwart as the best sport on planet Earth.
What has happened to you the last 2 days? Did Bob Costas enter your body or something? What is happening to you? Oh my God! Where is Sam? I need Cynical Sam back. Somebody call me. I need Cynical Sam. That's your new nickname, Cynical Sam. I need Cynical Sam back because I don't know this one. You mentioned something, though, in this, and I only planned on talking about this at the end of the segment. If we gave Rob Manfred truth serum, I think his wish for this series is 7 games and Toronto wins. Now, I know the Blue Jays have like the 5th or 6th highest payroll, but you know what happens if the Dodgers win this series. And you're already hearing it before the series started, and that is, baseball is in so much trouble. We need a lockout. We need a change to the system because the Dodgers can spend $1 zillion and defer contracts and defer payments, and it allows them to do things that maybe other franchises can't do. That you've heard it as much as I have, Sam. So there is that argument that Toronto winning, even with the 5th or 6th largest payroll, whatever it is, $230 million, is still better for baseball than the Dodgers winning the World Series. If Rob Manfred had it his way, he'd have a different World Series winner every year for 15 years. I think he'd rather have that.
As much as you just talked about not knowing this version of Sam, you just connected the 2 dots as to why I feel the way I do about this World Series, why I'm so high on the Dodgers, why I'm so convinced that the Dodgers will win. I want there to ultimately be a salary cap in baseball. I don't think sports leagues can function in 2025 without putting limitations on owners and what they can do year in and year out. I think the only way that you solve that at this point is have the Dodgers win the World Series. Because like you're saying, Jason, there is an element of Rob Manfred that understands that, hey, if the Blue Jays win the World Series, there's seemingly no fight that can happen anymore between the owners and the players. There's no argument that can be made for a salary cap because you just had the anti-salary cap team built to win in the playoffs lose. Well, here's the thing, Rob. They were the same team last year, and they actually did, and they dog-walked the competition all the way to the Commissioner's Trophy. So yes, the cynical part of me is the reason I am convinced that the Dodgers are going to win, because I do think that we need a salary cap. We need stars to stay in small markets. We need an NBA style of contractual obligation between team and player, where teams, instead of this weird arbitration system, have an option to extend guys who they've homegrown. There's a lot of stuff that we could get into about the future of Major League Baseball, Jason, but I will say that my rooting for the Dodgers is all based in cynicism around the sport.
Did Dave Roberts screw up last night putting Ohtani out there for the 7th? Would you have?
Here's the thing.
I know it's look. I know it's hindsight being 2020, but it's not for me. But it's not for me. It's not for me because, like I said, I did say it after the 6th inning, and I've got the receipts to prove it.
But I understand. But I think that there wasn't a wrong answer in my mind. I don't think that you could justify doing either thing, and here's why. You would come off of playing a doubleheader less than 20 hours ago, like. To me, that game, I'm really surprised that the Blue Jays won it because I thought it was just going to be a wash that all came down to talent. Turns out It came down to just how the chips fell, and they fell in Toronto's favor, especially with that decision.
Yeah, and look, they are still facing an uphill climb with no George Springer. Obviously, that is a problem for them.
Kirk is banged up.
But Bichette is starting to hit a little bit, and they need that bat. And, they continue to work counts. And can I just say one other thing? Because if I didn't make it about the Yankees for at least 20 seconds, it wouldn't be a segment where we talk about baseball or a day ending in Y. I honestly feel better about the Yankees not being in the World Series now, and here's why, Sam. They're not this good. And they were never this good now, looking back on it throughout the entire season. Watching these two teams, they are the two best teams in baseball. They are the two best teams in baseball. And I don't know if you can convince me otherwise. Watching the way they play the game. Just my thought. I just dropped that hand grenade. Now I'm going to walk away. Welcome back to the show. I feel like I just did a show. Got a lot to do. Kurt Helin, Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com coming up in 20. But let's spend some time with our friend Dianna Russini, as promised yesterday on the show. The wonderful Dianna Russini of The Athletic, The New York Times, NFL Insider. I don't want to say senior, because there's nothing about you that looks senior. I don't want to say senior NFL Insider, because you don't look like a senior.
I'll take that. I've been drinking more water. They say that's good for the skin.
I've been drinking more pink drinks from Starbucks, and look what it's doing for my glowing skin. No?
You gotta stay off that stuff.
I can't. It's like heroin, man. Once they get you in the ecosystem, forget it. You can't
nothing like 1,200 calories a day.
What's that drink called?
It's called a pink drink. Go to Starbucks and order a pink drink. You will not regret it. I promise you. You're gonna do it.
You will.
You're gonna do it, and then you're going to text me and say, "Oh my God, I love it." And the next time you come on the show, I'm gonna make you talk about it.
You're like a drug dealer here, getting me hooked on your own drugs.
Let's go. And I live across the street from a Starbucks, so it's a every morning thing.
That stuff is crack. It's funny. I write my column that I publish every Saturday at a coffee shop, and it's like a little mom and pop spot.
Speaking of that column, it got a lot of attention. I texted you, I think, on Sunday because one of our former colleagues in the industry was a little salty about the Sark stuff, the Steve Sarkisian stuff. You were at the owners' meetings. The trade deadline is approaching. I want to talk about all that, but let's flush out the Sarkisian stuff. and this idea of whether or not, he does land in the NFL, or is it more teams that are interested than him being interested? Where are we in the evolution of that story, if it's evolved any further?
Yeah, well, we know right now that the Tennessee Titans are the only team that have an opening, but we know they won't be the only team come January. So his representation has done a really good job of just making sure that people in the NFL, decision makers, are aware that Sark would have interest in the NFL if it were to ever get to that, right? So this doesn't mean that the Tennessee Titans have strong interest in Steve Sarkisian. They're just putting together a list right now of candidates that they are planning on meeting with, having conversations internally about what they want the direction of this organization to go in. Do they want to go defensive minded? Do they want to go leader of men? Do they want to go offensive minded, right? Because you've got, of course, Cam Ward, who they still have a lot of confidence in his ability. So the Sark name, and I got a lot of feedback on whether or not he would be a good fit in Tennessee. I think Titans fans were excited about the idea of it. It's obviously still really early. I can tell you from speaking to his agent, Jimmy Sexton, over the phone, Sark is happy coaching Texas right now. He wants to be at Texas right now. And so we'll just see how it goes. So this is really just a matter of just making sure all the options are there, Jay.
Dianna, you've done a lot of reporting around the A.J. Brown and the Eagles situation, despite the impact that it could have on your personal life. I'm curious, what's the latest update? Obviously, A.J. was out last week with the injury. What's that relationship like between him and the organization right now?
So the Philadelphia Eagles will tell you that unless it's a blockbuster offer, they are not moving A.J. Brown. We're about a little less than a week away from that November 4th trade deadline. And A.J. Brown's name is out there because it's very obvious to everyone watching and anyone that's following the Philadelphia Eagles that he's not happy, right? Why isn't he happy? Because he's not part of this offensive game plan consistently for all 4 quarters. He feels he's only getting used in those tight situations or when they need him. I'm sure we could do a whole show on whether or not he has an argument or not here, and if this is selfish or if this is just somebody that thinks that they can make the team better. All of that, the Eagles are aware, right? They know A.J. Brown is not thrilled, but Nick Sirianni is managing that, and they're trying to do everything they can to build this offense in a way that's run heavy, but that then allows the passing game to open. And I think what we saw last week is what they want to be, right? Like when Saquon is that good, a lot of good things happen. And I think if they can replicate that, that's where they feel that they can really get back to the Super Bowl.
How about a thought on Trey Hendrickson? Because could this week be the difference between, if the Bengals win or the Bengals lose, the difference between them making a decision to part ways with Trey Hendrickson in season and get some assets for him? Or
yeah, that's exactly where we're at. It's a great point. We are at that point where teams are going, we're in or out, right? And I still don't get the sense that Cincinnati wants to move him right now. This, again, could change after these weekend games, depending on how much they think they can get in return, right? Because you have teams. Pass rush is the number one most craved position right now. And, not in Dallas. Jerry Jones told me they are not looking for a pass rusher.
Really? Oh, my God.
Yes. I said, not Micah. He said, I take Micah back if I could get all my picks back.
Oh, my God. Is there a sense that Burrow's going to be back this year?
Yeah, I think so. The timeline isn't as clear to me from when I was talking to people. I think there's hope. There's hope he can get back in December. But you know how these things go. And it is really hard to talk about injuries. And I know I have to do it for a living. But I can't tell you how many times I've discussed even just like something simpler like a hamstring. And it's really individual. You have setbacks, you have guys that push much, you have guys that don't do anything, you have guys that do Pilates. Like there's all these different ways of recovering. And it's really up to the doctors and how Joe feels. So we'll see where the Bengals are at. And I think it would probably be smart of the Bengals to not rush Joe Burrow back if they're not in contention.
Sam, you got a quick one here? Because we got one more segment with her, but
30 seconds, Diana. There was a move yesterday that made me do the Windhorse fingers. The Patriots restructured a contract and made two trades that were essentially cap trades for a couple of assets. Is there something or someone new coming to New England? And does their name rhyme with Wax Trosby?
Gosh, could you imagine how happy Mike Vrabel would be to have Max Crosby? First of all, those two have a great relationship anyway. I've seen them together at events. They're like each other's dream. But no, I don't think Max Crosby is available. I don't think Myles Garrett is available. I think everyone's looking for the big swing. And look, New England's in a position, they're the opposite of Cincinnati, right? They're in it to win it now. And I mean, I'm still a little surprised that they're this good. 5 straight wins here. So yeah, obviously, I think just the New England Patriots they're sellers and buyers here, and we saw them selling some assets here. We'll see if they're going to sell more. But they are another team. They are looking at trying to get a pass rush. They need more edge guys. They could use another corner. I see them probably getting someone on defense if it's available more than offense, specific to New England.
Dianna Russini hanging out with us from The Athletic and The New York Times. More with her. One more segment with Dianna Russini coming up next. Welcome back. Kurt Helin of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com in 10 minutes to talk about the association. My love for basketball having returned in such a big way. Watching the NBA on NBC, Peacock, the new deal with Prime Video. Dianna Russini is hanging out with us from The Athletic and The New York Times, does a great job, their senior NFL insider. And Dianna, is there a sense around the league that this Colts thing is for real? How much are people taking it with a grain of salt? Because they have played a weak schedule. They've beaten the Titans twice, clubbing baby seals with the Dolphins, beating the Raiders, all these different things that I added up, and I still say I'm still cautious when trying to project what this team does when they play the Chiefs on the road in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
When they get to the playoffs, are they really going to be able to beat the Bills? I'm just not there yet. And maybe I'll get there. Maybe if I see them go into Kansas City and beat the Chiefs, I'm just not there yet. What are you hearing from people around the league when it comes to the Colts?
I think you specifically remember too much Giants quarterbacking. And I think you keep thinking Daniel Jones is going to turn into the pumpkin. That seems to always be at the center of people's arguments of why they don't think Indy can do it. And on the other side of it, I've had people compare Indy to the Philadelphia Eagles of last year, with obviously Jonathan Taylor having a kind of season that we saw in Saquon, Tyler Warren just being a magic show for them. He's been exceptional. You can make an argument. You've got a Coach of the Year candidate, you got a Comeback Player of the Year candidate, and Daniel Jones. You have Offensive Player of the Year candidate, and Jonathan Taylor, Rookie of the Year, and Tyler Warren. Like, when you start thinking about it, it's like, okay, maybe we got to take these guys seriously. I know Indy has a lot of belief and confidence in Daniel Jones. They haven't worked on his deal just yet, but I think this is just a matter of time. One of those things where they're like, wow, we hit this and we hit it right. So yeah, I'm with you though. Like, I want to see them against these bigger teams. But just based on people that are watching them with Lou Anarumo calling this defense, they've got all the ingredients here to continue this run.
Dianna, Tyler Shuck. I bet you didn't think you were going to get a Tyler Shuck question today. You report earlier in the week that the Saints are obviously turning to him as their starter. I'm curious, do you know anything about what the relationship's like between the Saints and Spencer Rattler at this point? It seems like there's some tension there.
So going back to Tyler Shuck, I laugh that you brought that up because I reported pretty early during the draft process that teams were hot on him. And we always talk on the show about like getting kickback from people like, what are you talking about? You're dumb. You don't know. And that was like one of those buzzy names of quarterbacks that teams were hot on. And the Saints obviously went out and drafted him. And look, they've been practicing patience there with him. They've been excited to see what he can be. But Spencer Rattler, okay, he is one of these quarterbacks. When I talk to defensive coordinators, nobody ever says to me like, this guy can't play or this guy stinks. They always highlight him, which isn't always the case with every quarterback that teams are facing. Like usually guys will, when they let their guard down, they're really ripping to quarterbacks like this guy can't do this.
I think he can play.
And Spencer's not perfect,
right?
But he does enough to scare teams, and we've seen him do it. And I think that's why a lot of people around the league respect him. So I do think that Kellen Moore is going to have to make a call on what he wants to do here, because as we just laid out, like he still has some traits. Maybe it's just a little bit more coaching, a little bit more experience, which he's gotten plenty of now. So I just think it's too early to make a call on what direction the Saints go in here.
Can I ask you about the Giants? Because between Malik Neighbors, now the Scadaboo injury, the way they lost to Denver, the loss against the Saints, I'm trying to figure out what the future of this franchise looks like. Obviously, this year is a lost year between the injuries, the quarterback change, all of that. Is Brian Daboll? I thought he was safe, but now I'm watching, and I'm just not so sure. Is there a sense around that organization? Is he coaching for his job here over the next 7-8 weeks, or is this thing, has the die already been cast and they basically drafted the quarterback who's going to be the next head coach's project?
Yeah, I don't think that they're having discussions about that. Just talking to people in New York, they're so just focused on every week. And how could you not think that Brian Daboll's in trouble after just the way this has gone? Yes, there has been bursts of excitement and jolt because Jackson Dart can play. But at the end of the day, they've got to win, and they're not winning. This Eagles game, to me, I just thought it was so much bigger than it felt even in the neighborhood I'm in, which is Giants land, just because I knew that, or I thought at least, that this would really tell you the direction that the Giants were to go. And if they could beat the Eagles, they haven't swept them in like 20-something years. It just would have been an incredible feat. And to be able to bounce off such a heart-wrenching loss to the Broncos. So I do think that this is going to be the game we look back on that kind of spun the Giants off the track of what could have been, I think, some optimism, right? If they don't have these injuries, I think this is a different situation. And maybe this is something John Mara considers at the end of the year, but just knowing that things weren't even that great last year, I have a hard time seeing, them being all in on Brian Daboll. I still think we got to wait to see how the season goes.
Dianna, everyone's talking this season about how teams we don't have as many standout teams as we do, and the parity is at an all-time high. Going into the trade deadline 6 days from when we're recording this, how do you think that affects how much action we see? Will there be more, less, just as much?
Yeah, I've had many GMs tell me to chill out on the trade deadline talk. Like, you are so much more excited about this than we are, is kind of the tone I've been getting. I think everyone has needs. I just don't think that there's a lot of great players available. In fact, Jerry Jones said that to me straight up. He's like, of course I want to get better. Of course I want to get more players. They're not just hanging on trees. They're not just there. Of course, if you're in Jerry's situation, though, you've got tons of ability to do it if you really want to do it, if you think there's a player. But the supply and demand doesn't exactly match up at this point. So, look, I still think that stuff will happen. I just don't think we're going to have like a Devontae Adams kind of excitement like we saw last year.
All right. So Diana's prediction, quiet trade deadline. I'm breaking the headline. No, I'm kidding. You're not saying quiet. You're not saying quiet.
Throw me into the fire with everything
Why
else.
not? Listen, I live for watching what people tweet about you. Like that's apparently become my life. I got to check in on you, make sure you're okay.
Sure. I know my sister-in-law does it. She loves it. She like lives for the comment section. She's like, the meaner the better. She thinks they're funny. I think they're funny too. Some people can be good. Like the way they
be creative.
So mean,
be mean, but be creative. That's all we want. As creators, that's where we are. Yeah.
Yes, that's how I feel. If you're gonna take time to write in the comment section under the article, be creative. So
Dianna Russini, The Athletic, and the New York Times. Thank you, my friend. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks, guys.
Welcome back from the NFL to the NBA. One of my favorite things we do on Wednesdays on this show is bringing Kurt Helin of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. I was having this conversation off air with Sam, and I'll bring it on the air briefly. I have fallen in love with the NBA again, Kurt. Like, I like the NBA, and you know I'm into it, and I follow it, but I'm watching early season games. I am falling in love with this sport again. And Sam actually said it before I got to spit it out. It's NBA on NBC. It's the nostalgia. I didn't think it would grab me this way, and it has. I'm not saying this because we have you on and you work for NBC or any of that. I don't carry water for anybody. But even the Prime Video stuff, I'm falling in love with this sport again. And another big part of the reason why, and you and I have had conversations off air about this, is Wemby.
Yeah.
He has become must-see TV for me. You know, there hasn't been somebody like that in the NBA that's made me want to tune in and watch them every single time, like Victor Wembanyama is right now, and what we've seen from him through the first 4 games for a Spurs team that's 4-0, for Wemby, whose MVP numbers on the odds went from 22-1, I think, before the season started, to now being the second favorite behind Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I mean, there is a movement underfoot here, Kurt Helin, and Victor Wembanyama has to be the story of the first week of this season.
He absolutely is. Like, it's been amazing. It's funny, by the way, you're listing the odds, and once again, I'm like, Nikola Jokic has had like 2 triple doubles in 3 games, but it's like we forget about
Take it for granted.
Like, oh yeah, he did that again. But he has been brilliant this year, and it's not like his handles got tighter, right? Like all of a sudden he is dribbling like he's a Curry, right? He's just putting it between his legs and doing step back threes. But more importantly, he got stronger. And you remember he would get in and kind of back guys down. He'd get to about 7-8 feet, and then he'd shoot that fadeaway, right? And he's so tall he could get it off, and he hit a fair amount of them. Not anymore. Like, he is just so strong right now. He's putting your shoulder. He put it into Anthony Davis, who's a big guy. He is going through guys, getting to the rim. The stat that's my favorite so far, and I did not look at this before I came on, but as of like 2 days ago, if Wembanyama were just his own team, he would have been 7th in the league in dunks. Like, he had more dunks than 23 teams.
He's like the California. He's like the state. He's like the economy in California. It's like the 5th largest in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It is. He's been brilliant, and they've got great play around him, which is the other reason they're 4-0. Stephen Castle's been great.
Yeah.
Dylan Harper's looked fantastic off the bench. They got all these big guards, but he is must watch now, because every game you're like, last night he had like a 360 alley-oop dunk thing, and you're like, how do you do that at period, let alone at 7-5?
The AD thing you mentioned is so important to me, because I know it was only game 1, but that's an all defensive league player. Yeah. And AD looked like he had no answer, none at all, for what Wemby was doing. And if he's doing that to him, what the hell's he going to do to the rest of the league? Go ahead, Sam.
Well, I'm so glad you mentioned their guard play, Kurt, because it leads me to this question. It's what I keep coming back to with the Spurs this year. What is this team, this organization going to do, not necessarily in a bad way, when De'Aaron Fox comes back? They've been getting such good play out of Stephon Castle, Devin Vassell, even Dylan Harper, right? Who falls out of this rotation? What are they going to do when they get De'Aaron Fox back?
They're going to play all 3 of them, because you kind of forget, Stephen Castle's a 6'5" guard. Dylan Harper, I believe it's 6'6" or 6'7". Like, you can play them together as a 3-guard lineup and basically have a wing because of the size on them, and you can still defend at that size. And Harper and, well, all 3 of them, frankly, defend pretty well as guards. So you can get away with it. But, Sam, you're not wrong long term. Long term, they're going to trade one of them in a couple of years for a big wing. Like, they're going to need to go get a wing, with all due respect to Devin Vassell and Keldon Johnson and stuff. Like, they're going to go get somebody, and they'll trade one of them to do it. They're not going to be able to pay 4 guys the max. So, like, they're going to trade one of them. But that's a good problem to have, man.
It is a very good problem to have. Outside of Wemby, in this first week of the season, what has opened your eyes the most? There was some concern about Embiid and what we saw with him in the first game of the season, but you're slowly starting to see him work his way into form. It feels like the DJ Edgecombe stuff, the DJ Edgecombe stuff. What has sort of stood out to you here in the first week?
A couple of things. Philadelphia, though, you mentioned, I'm glad you brought them up, because we're seeing the transition there, right? Like, yeah, Embiid's kind of getting back, and eventually Paul George will come back. That's Tyrese Maxey's team. And he and VJ Edgecombe and Quentin Grimes have formed a really great backcourt. And by the way, they've got another guy coming. Like, they've still got guards injured who are coming back. This is going to be a guard-driven team that gets whatever it gets out of Embiid, and it's going to be good. Look, they're not going to stay undefeated. They're not probably at the very top of the East long term, but they've started out great, and you can see the future now. And now it's a question of kind of how you pivot to that. I think the other things that have been interesting is Cooper Flagg as a point forward. Man, you get what you get when you put. Look, he hasn't been bad by any stretch of the imagination, but he struggled at points because.
Is this on Jason Kidd in part? Is this on Jason Kidd in part for how he's using him?
Look, they wanted to throw him in the fire and have him do this, and they made that comeback the other night when Cooper Flagg was on the bench and kind of against Oklahoma. Now, Cooper Flagg, again, I feel bad for him. Hey, you're a rookie. We want you to have the ball in your hand and kind of initiate the offense. And by the way, here's Lou Dort and the rest of the Oklahoma City defense. Have fun. But D'Angelo Russell gets in. Some other ball handlers get in for them, and they just look better, and they've kind of got to start playing that way and Cooper's going to be a wing. He's going to be a 6'9" wing who can shoot and do all this other stuff and be a second ball handler. You got to get him out of the point.
Sam's actually got something else on the Mavericks, and we're going to get to it coming up on the other side as we continue the conversation with Kurt Helin of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com on this Wednesday edition of Sports Wrap. We got a lot more to do. Don't go anywhere. Kurt Helin put me in a bad mood in between the segments talking about the Knicks.
You and my wife should talk. That's like her day. So yeah.
I might avoid the Knicks in this entire 2-segment thing. I really might. We were talking about the Mavericks. We were talking about the Mavericks to end the last segment, and Sam, I know you had a follow-up on the Mavs. Go ahead.
My thing on the Mavericks is just talking about a fan base that's upset right now. When do they start to panic this season? They don't look like what I know it's been, 5 games, but they don't look like what we thought they were going to look like. Cooper Flagg doesn't look like he should have been as big of a favorite for Rookie of the Year as he was. And Klay Thompson looks like his shot might be just altogether gone. When do the Mavericks start to panic?
I tried so hard to talk my daughter out of taking Klay Thompson on her fantasy team, and I couldn't stop her because he's such a big name. And now I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry. I can only help you so much. They're not at panic mode yet because they saw this as a little bit of a gap year, not in quite in the Boston, Indiana way. They thought they would be pretty good, but you put Kyrie Irving back on this team, and it just makes a lot more sense. Like the pieces start to fit together a lot better. Their problem is when you trade away Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis, outside of everything else, you just got older. You made your window really small because Davis is only going to be able to do this for a couple of years. So you throwing away a season or even half a season on that is just real trouble. And if they're going to throw away this year, they've got to find a way to make it all fit next year because their window is too small. And even if they're playing well, I'm not sure they can play with Oklahoma City and Denver and everybody, the Spurs now and whoever else you want to put at the top of the West. But Nico's the guy who pays the price for this now because Kid just got his extension. He's not going anywhere.
We're a week removed from this sports betting, gambling controversy that has gripped the sports world and obviously the NBA as well. A week removed, we've heard from Adam Silver. What's going on behind the scenes around the league to sort of reel this story in? And, you've got players who are upset, talking about the Players Association, talking about protections for players. We heard Jaylen Brown talk about that. Where is this a week removed from the big splash of the headline in all of this?
It's still being talked about around the league. And I'll tell you the two things everybody's talking about mostly are, A, injury reporting, which Adam Silver sent to this. It's a tricky situation. What did Charlotte know before the trade? What did the league knew? They were investigating Rozier when he was traded to Miami. They didn't tell any of the teams. It's unclear if they told Charlotte, but they didn't tell any other teams that he was still being investigated by the FBI, which would have been a red flag going into that trade. So that kind of information flow and the transparency and injury transparency is a question. But I'll tell you the other thing everybody thinks. There's more to come. And it may not involve big name NBA players or whatever, but you just arrested 30 plus guys, some of them are going to flip, or you're going to get their phones and tap their phones, and that's going to be something else. There's more to come on this, and the league is just kind of bracing for this because they're frustrated. They've had this fantastic play with Wemby and all these guys on the court, and everybody watching and talking about it, and we're talking about aspiration and the Clippers and betting scandals.
One quick follow-up on this, where I think Adam Silver and the league have to take a hit, and that's the Chauncey Billups side of this. You had a prominent poker player years ago talking about the fact that he knew of this rigged poker game that Chauncey Billups was involved in. The league can't feign ignorance here and say, we didn't know anything about this. Did they drop the ball on this in either investigating it further or sticking their heads in the sand? Help me understand that.
That happened with Billups when he was a broadcaster, basically, right? But he wasn't the coach of a team, wasn't involved with the team so directly like that. So because of that, I don't think they felt they had to investigate. But I will tell you that he's not. Here's what I have heard, and I'm not going to name names because I'm here, but he is not the only professional athlete, and it's not all NBA. There's a lot more.
Oh, we've heard the Antonio Gates stuff. I mean, Kevin Garnett.
There's a whole bunch of that that's going to come down. And by the way, you can check out the story at NBC Sports since we're plugging my stuff. I did a story when Portland was in town talking about how Thiago Splitter and them have really, as a team, they've done it. They're 2-2. They put their head down. They're just trying to take the next steps forward and playing pretty well.
Sam, take us home.
Kurt, another team that's seemingly treading water in the absence of a prominent figure in their organization, good spin by me, is the Lakers without LeBron. Austin Reeves, I mean, this guy's on fire right now. My question is this: does the organization view Austin Reeves as a formidable number 2 option to Luka Doncic in the inevitable post-LeBron era? Or do you think once LeBron leaves, whenever that may be, this year, next year, the year after, whenever, they'll have to go out and try to sign another name brand star?
If you by inevitable, you mean LeBron's gone next year? Yeah, probably. That was one of their questions this year. And the question isn't just like he's putting up numbers. It's if he's the number 2 next to Doncic, do we have enough defense around them? Because neither of those are really good defenders. And right now, LeBron's, frankly, and dial it up for stretches, he's not a great defender either. So, like, do you have enough with DeAndre Ayton and whoever else you're going to put out there?
DeAndre Ayton, stop.
So, I think long-term that is the question, but the way he has played so far, the answer might be yes. It might be, hey, it's Luka and Reeves and everybody around them, and that's kind of the long-term plan there. And they've got to decide if Ayton or if Jared Vanderbilt or if who else fits on the Rui Hachimura. Which of these guys is part of what's next?
Social media, come and get me. I had the Knicks winning 60-plus games after they started out 2-0. Now they've lost their last 2.
They looked great in the first half.
Just fire Mike Brown already. I'm done. I
love Knicks fans.
Kurt Helin, Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. You are one of one, my friend. Thank you as always. We'll talk to you next week.
Take care, Jason. Take care, Sam.
Just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Wednesday. Before we do, a couple of quick reminders. If you have not done so yet, make sure to subscribe to the SportsWrap with Jason Page podcast, available on all your favorite podcasting platforms. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon. Anywhere you get a podcast, you can get this show. Monday through Friday, 45 minutes. Make sure to go and check that out. Subscribe. It's free. It's easy. We appreciate it. Also, the SportsWrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. I'm telling you, it just continues to grow. Frankly, all the SportsWrap platforms between the YouTube channel, SportsWrap Jason Page on TikTok, SportsWrap Jason Page on Instagram. It is the way to stay in contact with the show. Clips from the show, SportsWrap shorts, the entire show available on YouTube, Monday through Friday, commercial-free, 45 minutes. Go and check it out. It is fantastic, I promise you. And without any further delay on this Wednesday edition of the show, time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends, Sam Yarnell. I have been dying to talk about this since Saturday. Okay, I've literally been chomping at the bit to talk about this. And I teased it yesterday on the show. And I thought it was a great way to end the show because we started with baseball, we had Kurt Helin in the middle, and now I'm going to bring it all together. We're landing the plane, baby. I've been thinking about this. I want to write a column on it, too. The idea, we talk so much about what Shohei Ohtani has meant to Major League Baseball, what he continues to mean to baseball, and what he's done in this World Series, and what he's done, the 3 home run, 10 strikeout performance to close out the Brewers in the NLCS. And I watch this, and I think about him as the future and the face of baseball. And I watch what Victor Wembanyama has done in parts of his first 2 seasons. Injuries be damned. By the way, similar to Shohei Ohtani, dealing with injuries early in his career. And then what Victor Wembanyama has done to start this season, what it's meant to the Spurs franchise. They're 4-0 out of the gate. And I ask myself the question of whether or not Victor Wembanyama can be for the NBA what Shohei Ohtani has been for baseball. That next face, that person to carry the sport into the future. Because we keep asking this question in the NBA. Who's the next face? Who's the next personality? Who's the next star to carry the game forward? Is it Anthony Edwards? Is it Luka Doncic? Is it Cooper Flagg? Is it whoever? And just throw your name into the hat. And it feels to me like there is some parallel here between Wemby, who is an incredibly talented future star of the game, and I think the future of the game, and freakish talent, freakish size, all of this, what he's doing. And comparing that to Ohtani and saying, there's a parallel here. I wanted to get your thoughts on it as we start this NBA season and end this baseball season and bring it all together.
I don't know what's gotten into me today, but I agree with the comparison. I want to take it from a different angle because I talked earlier in the show about what's been so great for this World Series, and it's growing the game and how important it's been internationally outside of the United States. And what is like one of the biggest things about Victor Wembanyama? It's that he's an international superstar. It's that he's brought all these European eyeballs, more so than Nikola Jokic even, or Luka Doncic. But he is kind of embodied the new face of this European rise in the NBA. And I think that when you see sports leagues tap into relatively new demographics, it takes a superstar, right? And you can go back through all the different demographics that have joined all the different American sports leagues over the last 100 years, right? But every time it takes a superstar. And I'm not saying that Nikola Jokic isn't one, and I'm not saying that Luka Doncic isn't one. I'm just saying I think they walk so that Wemby can run. And it feels like he's finally starting to at least jog in the NBA in terms of superstardom.
Yeah, I think that's and like I said, who knows how all this plays out? If Wemby continues to have injury problems throughout his career at that size, and he's still growing. He went from like 7'4" last year to 7'5" this year. Like, it's mind-boggling to think of this. Athlete. I hate to use this comparison because people are going to think I'm insulting him. He looks like a giraffe out on the floor, and he's graceful and it's elegant, and you listen to him talk. And you hear these stories about the type of person he is. And he has the ability to be not just this transformative figure for the NBA, but I think this transformative figure for sports. And how interesting is it, Sam? This is going to drive a certain segment of the population will just say, Daddy, that both of the biggest stars potentially in all of sports, one is Japanese, doesn't even speak English on TV, and the other's from France. And that's going to drive some people nuts. But it just goes to the nature of the internationalism that we have in sports these days, Sam.
Well, I think that there's an element of it to say that the American sports culture has certainly fallen behind that of the rest of the world in the last 5 to 10 years, and you're finally seeing the embodiment of that in professional sports leagues, but that's a different conversation that we could do an entire show about. I'll say this from a ball perspective, because you were talking about the elegance and grace. It's like he's the combination of every great big that you've ever seen, right? He's got the length of wilt.
But he's got
the
guard
defensive
skills.
acumen. Right. He's got the ball handling skills of like Magic Johnson, but he's got the post moves of Kareem, right?
That's crazy.
He's got the defensive acumen of Dikembe Mutombo.
Yeah.
It's just like every good element combined into one. He's a freak.
He is in a great way. We got to go. Thank you to Dianna Russini, Kurt Helin, you, Sam Yarnell, all of you for watching as well. We'll see you back here on Thursday for another edition of SportsWrap. Hi there, I'm Jason Page. You like what you're watching? Subscribe. We've got SportsWrap shorts on this channel. We've got the show. We've got clips from the show. What else do you have to do? You probably follow a lot of other things that aren't half as exciting. They're not half as exciting as this show is. So what are you waiting for? Click the subscribe button, follow the channel, watch the content. Bye.